What is up? Hope you're doing well on this Monday, the 15th of August, 2022. This is the SitRep for today, the situation report. What is going on in the world in the past 24 hours? So, for those who haven't joined me before, this is where I go through news stories that I find interesting over the past 24 hours and talk about it from the perspective of prepping. That being more prepared for any sort of emergency or disaster. So good morning to you, Commie Killer 2, on the Instagram. So whether you're watching this on Instagram right now or on YouTube, or even listening on podcast, where you can download the podcast of this through, I don't know, several different places, Stitcher, Spotify, Apple Podcast, maybe some sort of Google one as well. I'm not really sure, but they're out there. Check it out. So you can listen to my voice while, I don't know, doing other stuff like vacuuming or pumping iron, go to the gym, do a workout. These are important things. This is all part of preparedness. Hitting the gym is a big part of preparedness. I always talk about this. First thing you need to do is sort out your mindset. That's the most important thing when it comes to preparedness, is sorting out your mindset, how you think, how you take in information, and what you learn. The next most important thing is working on your physical body. So if you don't have the will to survive, it doesn't matter how much equipment you've bought, you're not going to survive. If you have the will, but you don't have the physical ability to survive an emergency situation, again, it doesn't matter. That equipment sort of stuff, that's further down the line. I know I make a lot of videos about equipment and that because it's the sexy thing, and people love watching that stuff on YouTube. I love watching that stuff on YouTube. Nobody particularly wants to sit there and watch me work out for 15 minutes on YouTube and talk about, hey, how you should get out in the gym or go for a run or something. But just to get our mind in the right place this morning, I just wanted to start off with that. It's got nothing to do with any of the stories that I'm going to talk about today, but I just, I don't know, I'm waxing lyrical right now. Good morning to you, Reagan, on YouTube, and good morning to you, Peter Rouse, on YouTube as well, who also says, physical preparation is the most neglected prep. Get a home gym. Couldn't agree more. I just went through and tidied my gym, which is also my garage, and the two had conflagrated into the technical term is a shit fight. So I went through yesterday, spent a bit of time, spent quite a few hours actually cleaning up my workspace in the garage, cleaning up the gym, and finally got to getting around to putting together a spin bike, which I'm not really into spin bikes, but it's a good warm-up thing for me. And I'm, getting older. I mean, I'm not older by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm getting older. The knees, after many years of abuse, are starting to feel it. So maybe some lower impact sort of cardio is good. Peter Rouse, 53 years old and 2 hours training 7 days per week. Good work. Good work. That's heaps more than I put in, to be honest. I mean, I don't do 2 hours of structured physical activity as in like a workout per day. I do over 2 hours of activity per day, and I definitely do over 150 hours of at least moderate exercise per week. And that's the recommendation. I think people should be aiming for at least 150 hours of moderate exercise, or maybe about 75 hours of minutes, not hours. If you're doing 150 hours, maybe you need to check your maths. 150 minutes of moderate exercise per week as a minimum. All right, let's jump into it. There's some stuff on here. Strengthen your mind and the rest will follow, says Kieran on Instagram. I agree. Commie Killer, I need a home gym. Absolutely. But, we have actually two things that you already own: your own body and gravity. You've got a home gym. You can do push-ups, you can do squats, you can do jumps, tuck jumps, you can do star jumps. You can find something else to actually hang on to. You can do pull-ups. There's a absolute myriad of exercises that you can do that require absolutely no gym equipment at all. So don't use that as a limiting factor. You need to really think about, hey, I need to just get out there and move my body. Going for a walk is better than sitting on your ass. Going for a run is probably better than going for a walk, depending on how your knees are holding up. And Peter Rouse says, bulletproof your knees. Absolutely, I agree. For those who don't know, I'm actually also a sports and exercise scientist, qualified sports and exercise scientist. So this is something that I'm relatively passionate about, but also just have a high interest in. And despite the many injuries and the wear and tear that is on my body, I'm fully aware that the limiting factors are the rehab and prehab that I don't do. And that's on me. And I think that applies to everyone as well. Like, we can really concentrate on these sort of prehab exercises or rehab exercises if we do have any sort of injuries, and building up things like our knees, not letting these things be the excuse, not saying, oh, my knees hurt, so I'm not going to do squats. Well, your knees hurt probably because you don't do squats. It's this self-licking ice cream. It's this this whole downward spiral. So if we can start actually working on one thing and just on a small level start to build that up, like our knees, then we can actually start to have more range of motion and we can do more exercises with it. Captain Quest, good to hear from you, man. Hope you're well. Thanks is a calisthenics app. No weights required. That's spelled THENX. I haven't heard of it, but I do trust Captain Quest because he is quite a fit young man himself. Who does a lot of really interesting stuff. People should check his stuff out. But thanks. I'll check that one out. Sounds interesting. I love calisthenics apps as well, like gold medal bodies and all that sort of good stuff. There's a really good book that I got too that I'm blanking on the name. I think it's called Becoming Bulletproof. I can't remember the dude who wrote it though. Really interesting sort of movement patterns in there. All right, let's jump into some of the stories today. I'm just going to whip through it. There's not anything too crazy that's going on at the moment, but just a few things that caught my eye. So we're looking at the Canberra situation that we had at the airport yesterday. A little bit more information has come out about that I just want to share. It appears that it was a 63-year-old man from New South Wales. Walked in with a firearm, which was obviously concealed in some way, and then proceeded, or it sat in the waiting area for a number of minutes, and then proceeded to open fire into the windows. So this person had some sort of issue with windows, and especially airport windows, so then attacked the airport windows, putting up to allegedly 5 shots into the windows. I've seen a few more of the photos. There are reports that there was shattered glass, and I can see some of the spidering in the glass now on these photos. That's interesting. Sorry, I just got a really weird message come through. Just outside of my town, there's a big rock, a huge rock, which is called the birthday rock because people go and spray paint happy birthday, whoever, on it whenever it's someone's birthday. I just got a report that it's missing. I'm not sure how you would move such a rock. It is huge. The rock's probably like 6 foot tall. Huge boulder of a thing. So that's interesting. Yeah, Kieran just said we're going to have to get rid of our guns again. So I just want to highlight this little part here that I read in, what are we on, news.com.au. And this is a direct quote from Jackie Lambie, who is a Tasmanian senator. She said it's very scary. We do have, quote, we do have great gun control measures in this country, and we've had this for many years. That's saved us, to be honest. That was her talking to the Nine Network yesterday. So, I mean, if you actually, she goes on to say things like he was firing at windows, not people. Right now, I'm feeling quite comfortable. He was shooting at windows, not people. So what I'm reading from this, from Jackie Lambie, is exactly this sort of stuff where she's probably looking at this and going, okay, I can see. I mean, I don't know what her motivations are, but this is just what I'm reading from it. Now, anyone who's a gun owner right now is probably sitting there going, oh, crap, here we go again. We're going to have guns banned, or we're going to have more restrictions put on. And I think Jackie Lambie's trying to curtail that right now. That's what it appears like to me. So hopefully. But yeah, it was 5 shots into windows, and it could happen anywhere really. And it doesn't, like, restricting weapons, I don't think is necessarily going to curtail that sort of behavior. Again, my big belief when it comes to gun violence of any sort is that guns are a tool, okay? They're an access to a tool that, yes, might be a force multiplier that allows human beings to cause more damage, or at least, in a battle space, equalizes things. The issue for me is not necessarily the tool that people use, it's the people. Why are people becoming active shooters? Why are we having active shooter events? What's actually happening there? That's the thing that we need to dig down on. All right, so that's a little bit more information that's come out about that. We'll have to wait more to see what this person's motivations were, what kind of weapon they were using, whether they had a license or not. So yeah, we'll see. All right, let's jump around the world now. So India, Indian farmers have risen up, blocked a motorway similar or a la what has happened with the Dutch farmers recently. So we're seeing this farming protesting spread across the world. So India's the latest one. They're actually protesting against their state's failure to pay sugarcane quotas, not for the past couple of days or weeks, but for the past 3 years. So I'd be pretty pissed off as well. Also, Serbia. Serbian farmers have blocked the roads to the Novi Sad Parliament for the 5th consecutive day. Probably the big surprising part of this story, not just that, oh, wow, we're seeing more farmer protests all over the world, as we should, I believe. The big thing about this was like, how am I seeing this for the first time if this has been happening for 5 days? This is another yet underreported sort of thing that's sliding underneath the radar. I haven't seen anything on it from any mainstream media yet, apart from digging into a couple of pages down and finding a footnote about Serbian farmers blocking roads. And it makes me wonder what else is happening out in the world that we're not actually getting access to at the moment. This is big stuff. This is the stuff that we really need to keep an eye on. This is our food industry. This is our food chain and our supply that is being attacked. And the people that are standing up for it are the farmers. And the people that need to stand up for it is every single human being on the face of the earth right now. My opinion, of course. Got a first-hand report from my main source through Instagram, who sends me messages, talking about the drought that is currently happening in Europe, agreeing that, the drought will compound all other issues. Low Rhine will impact energy once the barges are unable to supply the power stations with coal. So a big deal there for Germany coming up. So even if, because they've been shutting down their nuclear power plants, they've been thinking about reversing that. They've got the coal power plants that they're going to have to heavily rely on this winter. But if there's not enough water in that river, they're not going to get the coal. So apparently, allegedly, Germany is really trying to source shallow draft barges. That's more flat bottom boats, or boats that can actually go through a smaller amount of water. And I imagine they're pretty desperate to get that. This source also said that somewhere in their reading, they believe the autumn harvest will be greatly impacted due to the lack of rain in spring. And this person's been driving around Europe quite a bit, and anecdotally or experientially has noticed that the rural areas, that there is a massive lack of irrigation infrastructure within Europe. So this is actually like really super common in places that rain a lot. So, Southeast Asia, India and things like that. India's probably not too bad because they've diversified their growing areas a little bit. But in the particular parts where rainfall is always predicted and has always been, irrigation infrastructure is shit. It's just non-existent in a lot of these places. So then when they hit hard times like this, they're like, whoa, we can't actually do anything. We're stuffed. And this is going to have big impacts for the food situation in Europe in about a month and a half. So watch that space. All right. What else do we got here? Estonia offers Finland and Sweden to make the Baltic an internal sea of NATO. So Estonia sitting at the top of the those three sort of states that are right up against Russia. They're on the eastern side of the Baltic Sea, and then you've got Finland just to their north and Sweden obviously to their northwest. Now, Finland and Sweden are looking at joining NATO. The only other country that's involved in this area is Russia. So you've got St. Petersburg just up there. And essentially what Estonia is proposing is that they can cut off Russia from the Baltic Sea. They can form a kind of a net that Russia's not going to be able to get through. This is a huge issue as far as I'm concerned, because I can foresee what Russia's pushback against this would be. Russia, for those who don't know, I think a lot of the driving force behind what Russia is doing at the moment is existential, as in they are well aware that the existence of Russia as a nation is in trouble for a number of reasons, probably demographics being the big one, that they're severely declining in their population. And they know they've got an aging population. They're not going to be able to sustain what they're doing or what they've been doing in the past, and they will collapse. So they're staring down the barrel of that. And every time that something gets put against them, they come out harder and stronger. And so that's what they're doing at the moment. So I can see, like, watch this space. This Baltic Sea thing could quite easily kick off. France is on fire, huge fires. Obviously, they're still in their worst drought on record, and it's not helping. And allegedly, a lot of firefighters from all over Europe are heading to France at the moment to help out with that. Over 1,000 firefighters struggle to contain a wildfire that has already burned more than 7,400 hectares. That's pretty big. Pretty big stuff that's going on there. I mean, obviously, like in Australia, we're kind of pretty used to these sorts of numbers. In Europe, not so much. These sort of fires are really unprecedented at the moment for those guys. So, and as I can tell you, and as probably anyone will be able to tell you who fought the Australian bushfires of 2019, 2020, we were in a drought at that point. And one of the things we were really fighting to do was just get water. So a lot of us were looking around for water. A lot of us were pulling water out of people's personal water storages with the proviso that we're going to save their house. There wasn't a lot of water to go around. It was a huge concern. We had to get water shipped in. Accessing rivers with water in it became more and more dangerous as we had to sort of drive further down and get to more dangerous parts, and it took longer to get that water. So this is the sort of thing that France is looking at the moment, or Europe really as a whole is looking at the moment. Peter Rouse says on YouTube says popular birth rate in Europe far lower than Russia. There's a lot of parts of the world at the moment where the birth rate is crashing. But one of the big things that we have to look at is the aging population as well. So birth rate's one thing. Birth rate can go down if we have a population of probably 15 to 30-year-olds that we can look forward and go, okay, well, we can encourage an increase or a jump in birth rates. We can encourage people to have children. That's the problem with the demographics at the moment, that we've got a rapidly aging population, and if I use the term breedable age of human beings is aging out. So they're not going to be able to fix this problem. And this is what a lot of the world is looking at, primarily two of the biggest ones that are looking at this as a huge problem, Russia and China. China is going to have a huge problem within 10 years with their population, because there's a whole heap of other things that come along with this population shift as well. Because you get people retiring, you get people who are older, who are probably more consumers, less producers, holding on to wealth more, and making it creating a balance that's tipped in one direction. So if you don't have the younger people who are working and holding up the economy, then the economy collapses in that way. Yeah. All right, let's jump over to the US at the moment. Yeah, we're seeing some interesting stuff here. So I was just talking about yesterday the backlash from the FBI raid on Trump's place, the Mar-a-Lago raid. So the FBI in the news today, the FBI is investigating an unprecedented number of threats against the bureau themselves. They didn't even give numbers for it. They just said unprecedented amount. So they're having a huge amount of people, threaten the actual agency itself, FBI agency itself. And I said this, like, there's going to be a swing against it when you see these sorts of actions happen. There's always an equal and opposite reaction, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. And it wouldn't shock me if we actually see more violence. There already has been some violence aimed towards FBI. It wouldn't surprise me if there is more in the next 2 weeks. And then just quickly, what's happening on the border of the US at the moment. So just in Mexico, we're seeing a massive uptick in violence in the towns around the border up against the US as cartels all of a sudden become very, very active. So looking at this from the outside, we're seeing the cartels really ramp things up and really start to operate with almost impunity. So what the latest thing that they've been doing is hijacking cars or carjacking innocent people, taking the car, using it to blockade roads, setting it on fire. So then emergency services are both directed to a car fire and blocked by that car. They can't get past there. So once they can't get past that point, the actual cartels are allegedly or apparently operating within that area, doing whatever they want, assassinations, blowing up rival gangs, having full-on gang warfare. It's like the images that are coming out is like Mad Max, or it's not Mad Max type stuff, but it's like collapse of civilization type stuff that's going on down there as the cartels are really stepping up what they're doing there. Again, just a reminder for everyone, though, these are the sorts of things that can happen anywhere in reality. Yeah, it's much more likely to happen in Mexico at this point in time in history. But this sort of stuff can happen anywhere, and especially if you're traveling, if you're going around different countries and you're driving around. Safe driving, defensive driving, tactical driving, these are the sorts of things that you really want to concentrate on. Too many people, in my opinion, get in their car and go thumb in bum, mind in neutral, and then go, oh, I'm at my destination. We shouldn't be like that. Like I always talk about, having situational awareness when you're walking down the street at all times. You should be in the same state when you're in a car. You should have situational awareness. You shouldn't be getting yourself parked in. You should be aware of what cars are around you, and if somebody is acting suspiciously, say following you or something like that. So these are the sorts of things that we really want to be thinking about whenever we're getting into a car. Not just from the perspective of carjacking, but just from safe driving in reality. Speaking of safe driving, I'm going to pick up my new ute today, which I'm very excited about. So I'm going to hopefully shoot a video about decking out my new car with all the prepper sort of stuff, making it my prepper platform, putting all the cool stuff on it. So let me know if that sounds interesting to you, and I will shoot that video and put it up on the YouTubes. Peter Rouse has spit out a whole heap of numbers here about average ages, which is all very interesting stuff. There's a lot of people don't realize the average age of a lot of countries is quite high. So just to quote some of the ones he's put up here, average age is 39 in Russia, Germany is 45, Italy is 47, Spain 45, US is 38, Australia is 38. Interesting stuff. And that's one factor that we also need to think of is the average age. A couple other factors that you might want to look into as well is immigration rates as well. So Australians' average age and birth rate is pretty terrible. Like it is actually pretty terrible, as it is in all developed countries by the looks of it. One thing that Australia has going for it is pretty aggressive immigration, though. So we work hard at getting people into the country, and that actually counteracts our low birth rate in Australia. USA has a slight slightly high average age, but the US does have very good demographics. If you look at the demographic graph, if it's looking like this, where the majority of people are shifting up into the older age brackets, you're in for a problem. US is more like it's flatter than a lot of other places. So they're going to be able to roll over and have a good workforce of young adults coming into it. Although I do worry about the work ethic of young human beings nowadays. Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating stuff. And actually, a book that I just finished, which I'll recommend to people if you want to really delve into this and where we might be going in the future, is a book called The End is Just the Beginning by Peter Zehan. Fascinating stuff, very into the weeds when it comes to demographics and stuff like that, but super interesting. I listened to it on audiobook version, which was read by him. And he's quite a charismatic kind of dude. If you've ever looked at any interviews by him, he's pretty well spoken and funny to listen to. So check that out. Definitely check that out. All right, that is it for today. That's all I'm going to talk about. So the West hates babies, from Evelyn there. I couldn't agree more. Well, that's what it appears to be. However, in my town, it feels like we're having a baby boom at the moment in my town. I'm having one, so there's a lot of kids that are getting pumped out at the moment where I live, and I think that's pretty good stuff. That fills me full of hope for the future, and I think that's what we should all be really thinking about. This whole nonsense that we've got too many human beings on the earth and we need to stop breeding. It's not true. You do that, just to give an example, if we did a Chinese one child policy, then what would actually happen is let's say, within probably 30 years, we would start to see a decrease of population up around probably 30 to 50%, depending on what, how many human beings are dying. We continue that on, and in a very short order, within a few generations, we could actually hit a critical point where we cannot really sustain what we're doing anymore, and we would actually go into collapse. And that's essentially what places like Russia and China are experiencing right now, or about to experience, what people are about to see it. How dare I find out this information on Insta? I know. I just dropped that. I was like, have I said that? Anyway, I've said it. It's out there now. Thank you for the congratulations. Thanks, Captain Quest. Really appreciate it. So yeah. Wow. Peter Rouse just said they passed laws to allow abortion up until birth. Luke Knowles says, definitely keen to check out the new ute and how you kit it out. All right, so I'll do that. I will do that. I'll shoot a video on that. That's it for today. I hope you're all doing well today. Whatever you're doing on this fine Monday, staying safe, continue to prep. And as always, if you have any questions, shoot them through to me. Always keen to hear from you guys. Always love to hear from you. So apart from that, get out in the garden if you haven't already today. I'm going to try and get some more plants in. And until next time, gang, Semper Paratus.